So during the start of the pandemic, what I call my sister from another mother, Principal Tammy Taylor, and I started Create and Educate LLC. And the reason we started that platform, the platform we started was the collaborative. What we were seeing was that we were both educators, we were both educational leaders. We were hearing a lot from students, teachers, and parents, the complaints of, it's too much work being sent home. The parents didn't really understand how to work with their children. The children were frustrated. Everybody was frustrated, but no one was really talking to one another, just more about one another and pointing fingers. So we started the collaborative in order to minimize that, to bring everyone into the same space, and to bring awareness to what needed to happen during the pandemic in order for our students to best be educated with the help of parents and the educators that were sending them, the work that was needing to be done at home. In 20 years, I hope to have accomplished a lot. Definitely inspiring others, definitely an inspiration and example for not just my two daughters, but several other girls in the community and in other places that I work with, people that I mentor, educators that I mentor. But I really hope that I have made an impact on education and children. We have a program through Create and Educate called the Knowledge Academy for Girls, and it focuses on providing cultural relevant education specifically for girls, but we also work with a partner who focuses on African American males. We were able to raise our school report card grade levels, 2 grade levels in 1 year. A lot of the basis of that had to do with making sure that cultural relevant pedagogy, literacy, the knowledge was there for students. So we really have placed a great deal of that in our program, the Knowledge Academy for Girls. And the person that we work with, we're partnering for the young men, is doing the same thing for young men as well. It's so important for African American girls and males to understand exactly who they are. And a lot of times that is not taught in school. They see imagery that is, not very representative of who they actually are. They really don't know their true culture, true heritage, that so many things that are here in our culture was derived from the ancient culture of Africa. So when you know that, you operate differently. And when we really start to educate our children, they will know who they are and can come into their own. So in 20 years, I hope that several children have been inspired to be able to do that. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Principal Dr. McKeever Jeter. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, Mr. Davis from Las Vegas. Good morning, Melissa. We just saw her at the airport. And thank you all for joining us. Good morning, Lamont, and shout out to Higher Definition Radio. The video, introductory video, was a part of a broadcast that an interview that they did with the spotlight for me. So if you haven't seen the entire video, be sure to go and watch it. Good morning, Principal Kafele. Yes, we are like you. We're on the road this morning, so we're broadcasting.
On the road.
Yes, live actually from here in Detroit, Michigan. So we had a great flight. We have definitely been given the Southern hospitality by our brother in education and his wife. So we are thankful for them. And we have had some really great food yesterday here already. I've got my workout in. I've had my coffee. So all of my coffee drinkers know what that's like. And I am ready to go. What about you, Tammy?
We are on the road, as Sheka said, really excited to be with you guys this morning. And Lamont, before we go on, thank you so much. The feature was amazing. You guys did a great job of highlighting Sheka, and she did a really good job. So thank you for spotlighting her. She deserved that. And as Sheka said, we are in Detroit, Michigan, where The red carpet has been rolled out to us. We have been really treated like royalty. The Hurts have been over accommodating. And as Sheka said, they have just been absolutely phenomenal with making sure that we were settled and that we had some place to go and we knew where we were going. They provided us with actually a vehicle so that we can get where we need to go. And we are, as Sheka mentioned, having a ball. We also want to say that we hope everybody had a very, very happy Good Friday and that everybody had that wonderful experience on yesterday. And we'll have a blessed Easter on tomorrow. So we're super excited this morning again to be with y'all.
Definitely. And, just in case, if you do come to Detroit and, you're like, oh, Principal Hurt, I heard how y'all rolled the red carpet. Now, y'all not us. So don't be expecting, certain things. I'm just joking.
I bet he would do that.
He would.
It's amazing.
But we're going to go ahead and get started. So everything that we bring you is based on our framework that we created to help provide leaders with a roadmap to cultivating strong culture and engaged performing students.
Yeah, we are, again, bringing you strategies, and everything that we come to you with comes from our R.E.A.L framework. So that R.E.A.L acronym stands again for respect. And this is again that piece where everything is foundational, and that's our door. You have to enter into what you do with respect. And that is also where we really hit hard our culture and SEL work. So we really stand proud on the fact that all of the work that we do is undergirded through the lens of respect. And of course, the E stands for excellence. The A is for accountability. And literacy and leadership, again, are foundational toward our work. And if you can remember, we are basing all of our work on the framework that was created by Ron Edmonds, who, of course, was a school improvement specialist. Again, we're going to continue our focus on literacy today.
And these strategies that Tammy just talked about basically is what helped us to improve our schools 2 and 3 report card grade levels in 1 year. So we're passionate about literacy. We've been dubbed the literacy leaders because we know that is basically the thing that touches all things. It is the key to equity in education. I've quoted these statistics before about since 2007, 33% of fourth graders have scored below basic in reading. 20 to 23% of adults in the U.S. are at the lowest level of literacy, which is a travesty.
It is. And we talk about it all the time, how it impacts how well our kids do in school, because if they aren't able to read, they aren't able to be successful in other areas. And in addition to education and the school ability to be successful for students, we also know that it impacts so many other things in society, like healthcare, crime, and the prison rate.
Definitely. So today we are going to be focusing on decoding. And basically, decoding is just knowing how to sound out a word, basically knowing what the sound of a word is. And before a child can know how to decode, you really have to have a great understanding of phonemic awareness and knowing what those letter sounds mean and what those sounds sound like for children. So with that, sometimes, and I'm working with my own daughter because she's still learning how to decode, learning how to read. So sometimes it's tempting as parents and even sometimes as educators to just tell a child what a word says. And my daughter, even though she knows her strategies, she, all children sometimes get lazy. Mommy, what's this word? And instead of me just saying, hey, this is the word, I have to redirect her back to her strategies. Okay, how do we sound out a word? And so we're going to tell you what those strategies are.
Yeah, so you, as Sheka just mentioned, probably are asking what are these strategies that you guys are mentioning. And we're going to talk about 6 strategies today that, as Create and Educate, we consider to be decoding strategies that we promote. And these are, again, strategies that can be used to solve unknown words. Now, we are not saying that these are the only strategies that can be used to help students with decoding. However, we are saying that these are strategies we have found to be tried and true, and we know work well with beginning and struggling readers. So the first strategy is to always look at the whole word. Often when reading with a beginning reader, you're going to find that she or he will look at the first sound only, and then they'll say a word and just keep moving. Sometimes the reader is signaled that the word was incorrect if the word didn't make sense. However, if you're reading with a beginning reader or even a struggling reader who doesn't have strong comprehension, the error could go unnoticed. So it's really important to redirect the reader when you're reading with them to be able to follow through the entire word, because again, that will help the reader to attend to that entire word. And when they begin to develop stronger comprehension skills, that will help them to put that into context and syntactically think, does this even make sense? And that stops them and redirects them to their reading themselves. Now, another strategy is to find chunks that are inside the word that they might know. Now, it's so much easier when a child is reading and they get to a word that can be taken apart or deconstructed, and you can ask them, okay, now what do you see anything in this word that you know? And just for example, the word was mistake. That might be an intimidating word to a new reader because they've never seen the word before and they don't know that word just yet. But there are chunks of that word that they should know and that you could help them to break down so that they can use those chunks to actually solve for the word that they don't know.
Definitely, Tammy. And the next 2 strategies are very simple. We talked last week about learning to read from left to right. So just teaching children to use the finger to first teach them to put that finger under the beginning of the word or the first letter, and then teaching them how to move that finger from left to right across the word. This helps them to guide their eyes from left to right, which is, how they learn how to read correctly. And it also helps them with recognizing those beginning letter sounds. And as Tammy just talked about, showing them how to chunk those words out. The next strategy is slowly stretching out the sounds or chunks of the word. Some teachers use something called stretchy snake. And one of the other things that I saw in my daughter's class that the teacher really made it exciting for them when they started to learn how to decode. She gave them all little magnifying glasses, and they were word detectives. So when you do fun little things like that, or give them, little tools to go along with what they're doing, that just brings that excitement to it for them. But it may be necessary for them to also take that finger, and as Tammy was just talking about, chunking, cover up part of the word to recognize, what chunks of the words are, or what is that word in there that you recognize. You teach them how to cover up the prefix or the suffix if you've gotten that far with decoding yet. So some examples are harmed, and then you practice showing them what your lips look like when you're actually sounding out the words, and be intentional about making those letter sounds so they can hear it, because making sure that they can see your lip movement as well as them being able to hear those sounds really help hopeful is another one. They can cover up the full. Oh, they may recognize hope. And then full, of course, is one of those suffixes that you may have gone over. And then sometimes there's two words within combination words within a word, and you teach them that. Rainbow is an example of that, where you can cover up bow, show them rain, and they may recognize it. Try not to tell them. The best way to do it is by asking questions. What do you see a word in here? When you're showing them these strategies. And then boat is another example of the word oat is in there. And if they're covering up the B, they may recognize the word oat in that word.
And Sheka was she went over a lot of different things, and all those strategies that she just talked about are things that are absolutely things that can be used within the classroom, or even if you're working with your child at home, to say, like she was talking about those compound words. Kids get so excited when you show them that this is a huge big word, but you can figure this word out, because guess what? You know this word already. Rain, you know this word already. Bow. Just put those two together, and now you have a new word that you can master, and that's rainbow. So those are really, really important strategies. Another thing that we just want to make sure that we are sharing, and Sheka kind of hit on this, because I think it's really important that we treat the reading process, like she said, like we're helping these little detectives to solve mysteries, because that's what reading is. It's like a mystery. And when you show them all these printed words on a page, and all they know are their alphabet, all they see are all these little letters. And what you're helping them to do is to recognize that these letters go together to make words. And that's what she could define for you when we started our session this morning. The last strategy, and this is something that is super important, is blending. We want to make sure that everybody, we don't neglect this last step, because this is important even as readers have developed some of those beginning decoding strategies, but they have to be able to blend the entire word. Like you put the entire word together, so that this new word now is a word that you have mastery over. So these are, again, all strategies that we know are proven to work with readers who are beginning to learn the reading process, as well as students who may have some struggles with especially decoding words that they're not familiar with.
And just because I'm at the secondary level, sometimes decoding for children who are older in front of their peers may be something that's embarrassing to them. If other children, of course, know how to, read well, and they're still struggling and are on a lower reading level. And so that's why the pull-out strategy worked really well for us at the middle school, because inside of the classroom, children were afraid to be that vulnerable in front of their peers, where you're in the 7th or the 8th grade and you're still sounding out letters and sounds when everybody else knows those sounds and are moving forward quickly with those. And sometimes, we have to be real. Children are cruel sometimes, at the upper grades and even at the lower grades, and it may become a teasing thing. So the pull-out model worked well, and we noticed that when students were in smaller groups with other peers who had like reading levels, they became a lot more vulnerable. They actually, sometimes, you have that thinking from some of the teachers where they feel like, oh, well, the kids don't want to learn. No, the kids don't want to be embarrassed. They don't want to be picked at. So when you're in those smaller groups and can become more vulnerable, they do things, a lot better, and they enjoyed it.
And honestly, she could mention it for the middle grades, but it's the same way when you are working with kids who are still struggling when they get into 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade. So there does have to be another intervention plan, so that we are respectful of the students who are at that point where they still struggle. I saw one of the comments from Josh who talked about EL students, and that was is one of the student populations that benefits also from decoding strategies, because sometimes, you know, these students are learning a second, third language in some cases, and the decoding does help them to figure out how the nuances of our language works, so that those decoding for new words that are in a different language are able to have strategies under their belts that help them as well. Finally, like with the blending, this is another thing that is just something to keep in mind. When you get to that point where students are able to blend all those sounds together to make a word, you want to make sure that they don't get fixated on the individual letters, because if you're in the process of reading, and we're going to get to those later stages of reading as well, and the other areas that we're going to focus on with comprehension and fluency and those things, some of that starts to break down if you teach this in absentia and it's isolated. So we want all this to be a part of making meaning, because that's what reading is, and that's what you want your students to ultimately be able to do.
And the last tip I'll give before we get to the announcements, this is the first time we've been finished early. But decoding is something that really is a big part of dyslexia. A lot of people think that dyslexia is only seeing words backwards. That is a myth. Decoding has a great deal to do with dyslexia. So if you have not had any type of dyslexia training, we've had it in our district, and we're also getting our resource teachers, special ed teachers, and other teachers trained in dyslexia, because it's one of the things that's not really greatly recognized. Then you will start to understand how decoding has so much to do with dyslexia, and it's not just seeing things backwards.
Right.
So we'll get more into those strategies. Thank you all for joining us. We're going to run down our announcements real quick before we hop over to Principal Kafele next.
Yes. We're super excited to hear him this morning, and want to just thank you guys for joining us again, and saying thank you so much for the support that you offer to us every week. We appreciate you following us, and encourage you to continue to follow us at www.createandeducate.solutions. And when you go there, you can find our link tree. You can follow us on all platforms. You can like and share this broadcast. Tune in for our PD with Sheka and Tammy at 10:30 Eastern Standard Time on Saturdays, because we are so elated to be a part of that Fantastic Four PD PLN network. And we of course follow on Saturday Principal Hurt, who comes on at 10, and then we're on at 10:30. Following us, of course, at 10:55 is Principal Kafele. And on Sunday with Josh, Chris, and Dean with Unlock the Middle. So please join us each weekend as we try to pour into your lives.
And actually, Principal Hurt, one of his children had something this morning, so he's going to be on tomorrow at his 6:30 time. And I've posted this on our page, but I'm a part of a webinar sponsored by Integrate Schools. And we are going to be discussing engagement first, designing lesson plans for new and international teachers. It's going to be on April 27th. 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 3 p.m. Eastern. So I will have that information on our page as well, where you can register for that free professional development. Integrate Technology is a great lesson plan platform. So we hope you log on and get that free information. So thank you all for joining us. And if you will, hop on over to Principal Kafele's page. Yes. That is where we are going next.
Bye, guys. Happy Easter.
Yes, happy Easter. Thank you, guys.